All right, a lot that Sarah gave us. So let's get further analysis from Hamish Telford. Now, he's an associate professor of political science at the University of Fraser University. Hamish joining us from Abbotsford, British Columbia. Great to see you. Thanks a lot for your time here on Canada Tonight.
You're welcome, Angie.
So CBC News Desk, Decision Desk, is projecting that the NDP will form the new government in BC. Too close right now, as you heard from Sarah there, to determine whether or not we're looking at a majority or minority government. But give me a sense of how all of this is unfolded and the fact that we are now still 10 days later now since the election closed. We still don't have an official result.
That's right. And it's one of those elections, statistically improbable, but one of those elections where it essentially comes down to a tie, virtually a tie in seats, at least on the initial count at 45-46, and then in a couple of ridings, a virtual tie as well. The NDP has moved ahead one seat now, but only by 18 votes in that one riding. Again, it's statistically improbable that something like that would happen. But that's where we are, and it would look like that riding will have to go to a judicial recount to get a confirmation. I've also been watching the riding in Kelowna Centre, which has been getting closer and closer all day, and I think is currently at 43 votes. The Conservative lead there has been shrinking all day, and that perhaps falls into the margins of a judicial recount there as well. So it'll take another week to get the final confirmation after these judicial recounts. But one way or another, it looks like an NDP government.
With looking at how tight these two ridings are, and as you mentioned, there could be a judicial count that's required in order to get that final result. What does it say in terms of where the voter apathy is around this election, around the NDP, and what is the challenge or the task at hand for the NDP as they will hope, as you say, eventually form government?
Yes, well, the first challenge is to actually form that government. Yeah. Even if they do get to 47 and it's a majority, it's razor thin. They would have to presumably give up a person to be speaker, which means there would be 46 on the government side and 46 on the opposition side. So the speaker would have to be involved in breaking ties and supporting government legislation. Not a comfortable way to be governing, even if it is with a majority. A lot of talk as well behind the scenes that perhaps the NDP are looking for one of the opposition MLAs to serve as speaker. That would give them a little bit more margin to play with in the legislature, but we'll have to see if that comes to fruition. It did in 2017. The NDP then did manage to get a Liberal to serve as speaker. It ended his political career, but he thought it was the best thing to do to provide stability in the province. Then after that, they've got to start governing. And of course, as soon as you start governing and making decisions, you please some people and probably upset more. I don't think there's a single reason why the NDP lost a comfortable majority and have fallen into this sort of position. Different decisions in different places in the province have been received negatively. And we saw them lose 15 or 16 seats.
With that being said, do you see another potential confidence and supply agreement? And if that's the case, how would all of that work? Because so much is really going to be leaning on what's going to unfold from here.
Yes, obviously, I think pretty obviously, if the NDP finishes up with a minority at 46, then they will need the Greens for sure, and a supply and confidence agreement would be the way to go. Even if they get to 47, a good working relationship with the Greens could well be called for to provide the government more stability. I think both the NDP and the Greens have every incentive in the world to make this legislature work and to make it work for as long as possible. We're seeing a huge conservative wave in the country, really being engineered by Pierre Poilievre. The BC Conservative Party caught that wave and nearly rode it to victory. I think the NDP and the Greens would like to give it some time to see if that wave dissipates. I imagine they would like to have the next election well after the next federal election.
Well, and having said that, we know that Conservative Party leader John Rustad has said that he's going to do everything he can to prevent the BC NDP from fully forming government. And I guess case in point, if this ends up becoming a minority government, we could be heading back to the polls sooner than later.
We could, especially if it's minority, but even if it's a slim majority at 47, it just, an MLA missing the ferry over to Victoria could bring the government down,
right,
or a cabinet minister traveling to Ottawa. So it's a very precarious majority government, if in fact it is a majority.
We will be watching as our Sarah Galashan is watching those numbers come in, Hamish, and we will see what the eventual result, if we have it tonight, or as you say, it could be a week from now. Hamish Telford is an associate professor of political science at the University of Fraser Valley. Thank you so much for this. Really appreciate your analysis.
You're welcome.